Hello, hello, hello. So welcome. Thank you so much for attending How to Write a Federal Resume. So today's webinar is on how to write federal resume. My name is Angela, and I'm a recruiter here on the National Strategic Recruitment Team for the USDA Forest Service. During today's session, we will discuss how to effectively write a federal resume. This will help you be more competitive when applying for federal positions than you would be with a private sector resume. There will be a few questions during this presentation that we'd like you to answer. When you see them on the screen, please click the Ask a Question button and submit your answers in the Q&A pod. Before we start, I do want to go over some tips to ensure you get the most out of today's session. First, we have a lot of information to share with you, so please feel free to grab something to take notes with. The session is being recorded and will be accessible through the same link you joined today immediately after our session concludes. Closed captions are available for anyone that would like to use them. The next slide will give a visual of how to access the closed caption option. If a slide is difficult to see, you can zoom in by pressing Control equals. To zoom out, press Control minus. We are unable to assist with connection or technical issues and recommend contacting your local IT support or help desk for those. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation, so please enter your questions into the Q&A pod as they come up. You can enable live captioning by clicking the closed captioning button in the bottom right corner of the video player. I would like to take a minute to introduce you to our team. So the USDA Forest Service National Strategic Recruitment Team is a diverse group of employees who are skilled in assisting applicants who are interested in a Forest Service career. We have folks who have field experience, others have worked in HR for a long time, some have managed programs, and a few are just starting their own federal careers. We provide informational webinars, individual consultations, outreach to community organizations, and other resources to assist potential applicants. You might even see our team at career fairs, national conferences, or at your local college or university. At the end of today's session, we will provide you with several ways to reach out to our team. There is one more thing we'd like to touch on before we get to the main topic for today, which is the Forest Service values. As you can see, the Forest Service has 5 core values that are interdependent of each other. They are service, interdependence, conservation, diversity, and safety. These values are not in any order. Each one can build on another. So as you build your resume and pursue a career with the Forest Service, think about these values and how they connect with your past experiences and the career you are looking to begin with the Forest Service. Now let's get started. While typically not a required component of a federal application, a cover letter can complement and expand upon your federal resume. Job seekers frequently send a cover letter along with their applications for employment as a way of introducing themselves to potential employers and explaining their qualifications for the desired positions. Although writing a cover letter requires extra effort, it can be very, very helpful in allowing an applicant to stand out above the competition when executed effectively. While we won't discuss cover letters in great detail during today's session, this diagram shows what should go into your cover letter and which topics to highlight the most. For instance, include items such as job interests, professional goals, knowledge, achievements, career goals, abilities, and skills. Do not use a cover letter to simply, repeat items on your resume. Instead, use it to highlight experiences you want to place in the spotlight. Be sure to use your compelling language and draw attention to any special hiring authorities you may be eligible for as well. A great way to begin thinking about designing your federal resume is with a quick warm-up activity. Did you know, according to one famous study, hiring managers only take an average of 6 seconds to make a decision about you based on your resume? The 6-second resume challenge puts you in the hiring manager's shoes and will teach you a valuable lesson about making first impressions. Our team navigated to the online activity by clicking on the link ahead of time, and will present the activity through the screenshots we captured. However, we invite you to click on the link in the Q&A pod and save it so that you can complete this activity on your own at a later time. After you click the start button, you'll be directed to this instruction screen. Upon clicking the begin challenge button, you will begin clicking reviewing your resumes and be forced to make hard decisions. The skim test. Here you can see the first of 10 resumes. The countdown timer is on the right side of the screen, so you can only have 6 seconds to skim each resume. As you make your quick decisions, you might consider the following. What role does the style and format play in the resumes you decide to keep? What stands out as your eyes quickly skim each page? What is missing in those resumes you decide to pass on? Thinking like a hiring manager may help you design a resume that will make it through that first skim test. At the end of the 6 seconds, you will be prompted to make your decision. Will you keep it or drop it? At the end of the 10 rounds, a question will pop up asking you if you are actually a human resources expert. Simply answer yes or no. You'll then receive a score for the exercise. The higher the score, the more you demonstrated thinking like a hiring manager. You can then begin thinking about how you might use this perspective as a starting place for designing your federal resume. So the federal resume. So why is a resume so important? One way of looking at this is that your resume is your federal application, and it's the best way to market yourself to employers. It conveys your qualifications for the job, and it's used to separate those who are best qualified from those who are only basically qualified. Your resume is your first and possibly your only chance to make an impression. If you follow the advice in this workshop, you will have a better chance to ensure this first impression is a good one. Resume components. There are several key components that are critical to include on every resume, such as your contact information, including your full name, mailing address, phone number, and an appropriate personal email address. And an objective which briefly describes who you are as a candidate and what type of career you're interested in. Education, job-related training and certifications. Work experience, including dates of employment in both months and years, and accomplishment statements and references. When including references, be sure those individuals are available and responsive. References are an important part of the hiring process and can hinder or even remove you from the hiring process if your references are not responsive. We encourage you to include at least 3 professional references on your resume, and depending on the position you are applying for, you will need at least 1 supervisory reference. Examples include a current or former supervisor, or even a college professor if you've never worked before. Select your references wisely. Other items to consider adding are language skills, organizations or affiliations, professional publications, leadership roles, volunteer experiences, special projects, professional or academic, travel experiences, and any other additional relevant information. Now that we've discussed the components of a resume, let's move on to the difference between a federal and private sector resume. While there is no limit to the number of pages, federal resumes are more often 3 to 5 pages in length. Private sector resumes are usually 1 to 2 pages. However, keep in mind that the length you end up with may depend on the level of the position you are applying to, as well as the level of experience you possess. Federal resumes have a detailed description about each major skill, and private sector resumes are usually written with short bullet statements. One of the biggest differences between federal resumes and private sector resumes is keyword usage. With federal job resumes, you'll want to use more keywords and place those keywords at the beginning of descriptions. With private sector resumes, the goal is to communicate information quickly, and keywords are often blended into each bulleted short statement. Another key difference between federal and civilian resumes is the level of detail involved. Federal resumes should include details such as job start and end dates with month and year, average number of hours worked per week, employer addresses, salary information, supervisor names and phone numbers, college education and graduation dates, high school education, relevant training, including course name, date and number of hours, and other information typically not included in a private sector resumes. If this information is not included in your federal resume, you may not be found eligible or qualified for the position. Next, we will get into the difference between a master resume and a targeted resume. A good place to start when developing your federal resume is to create a master resume. Master resumes are much different than targeted resumes, which are specifically tailored for the position you are applying for. A master resume is a document that lists and completely describes all of your work experiences, accomplishments, and training, all in one place. A targeted resume is one that is written in a way that highlights skills and accomplishments that directly relate to that specific job you are applying for. It is more time-consuming to write than a general resume and may seem a little daunting at first, but if you want to make a favorable impression on an employer and catch their attention, this is an effective way to do it. You may have several targeted resumes depending on the type of positions you're applying for and your level of experience. As we learned in the resume challenge activity, human resources is flooded with applications for most positions and is faced with weeding out the good from the bad. Therefore, your resume needs to pass the skim test. Your resume must be targeted and completely tailored to the position you are applying to. Here are some tips for your resume. Find a job description or announcement similar to the job you will be applying for. Highlight the knowledge, skills, and abilities listed within the qualification section of the job announcement. These would be things like answer inquiries from customers via phone and email. Review your master resume for any experiences that may speak to those skills and duties identified in the announcement. And build a targeted resume with keywords from the sample job description and any experiences and training from your master resume. Ask yourself, have I clearly addressed the general and specialized experiences described in the qualification section of the announcement? Making your resume stand out is crucial to the hiring process. It may not stand out as well if your resume isn't well organized with easy to find information. An average of 6.25 seconds is spent looking at a candidate's resume. 80% of the 6 seconds is spent looking at five things: name, current title and organization, previous title and organization, start and end dates for current and past positions, and education. 20% of that 6 seconds is scan time looking for keywords that match the open position. Clearly identify how you meet the qualifications and knowledge, skills, and abilities, since only a few seconds is actually spent looking for those items. Now, let's move into an interactive activity. Don't worry if you can't catch all the errors and mistakes. The point of this learning experience is just that to learn. During this activity, we will identify the well-written and poorly written aspects of each resume example and give a short summary of what to watch out for and take into consideration when writing your resume. Before we even zoom in on the text of each resume, you should already be able to see a major difference between these two resume examples. Use the Q&A pod to tell us what stands out between these two. These next few slides will show examples from a poorly written resume. Take a minute to look over this portion of the resume you see on the screen and use the Q&A pod to tell us what you think is missing as well. While you do that, I will read off some examples of what to watch out for so you don't make these mistakes when writing your own resume. Poor spelling and grammar are one of the quickest ways to give a poor first impression. Another is elaborate on your summary or objective. This is the time to sell yourself. Do not play small when trying to achieve something big. And then 3, use more descriptive skills rather than listing generic skills, which most people have. Instead of saying proficient in Microsoft Office, lead with able to create spreadsheets and tables with great efficiency, as well as utilize Adobe Acrobat Pro for design and template purposes. The work experience section may be the most important part of your resume. Here are a few considerations when designing this section. Be sure to use keywords from the job description when tailoring your resume to the job announcement. Elaborate on the duties you have performed, particularly if you have experience relevant to the job you're applying for. If you do not have direct experience in the career you're applying for, design your resume in a way which showcases the ability to do the job. Again, keywords from the announcement are a must. You'll see in the sample on this slide that much of the key information needed is missing. Incomplete dates and a lack of detailed description of duties make this resume less than ideal. When listing references, please make sure all the information is accurate and up to date. Having a good reference could be the difference between receiving a job offer and not receiving one. And last but not least, proofread your resume for any errors. Very important. What mistakes do you see in this section? Post your answers in the Q&A pod. With a little time and effort, you can easily turn a poor resume into one that stands out and increases your chances of receiving a job offer. While building your resume, keep the following in mind. 1, a well-written federal resume may be more than 1 page. In fact, for some positions you're applying for, a resume longer than 1 page may be necessary to demonstrate that you meet the qualifications for the position. For recent college graduates with limited work experiences, a 2-page resume may be a great length. For more advanced candidates with 10 or more years of work experience, a 5-page resume would not be unusual. Now let's look at a few specifics from a well-written resume. On this example, you'll see that the candidate's contact information is complete and easy to find. The summary or objective is detailed and outlines some of the candidate's main skills and talents. The candidate also showcases their ability to work as a member of a team and communicate effectively, which are skills needed for almost all positions. This summary may even be tailored to a particular job announcement with keywords from the duties or qualifications section appearing near the top. Well-written resumes usually differ from poorly written resumes in their level of description and detail. Listing education near the top of the resume may be particularly useful when applying to positions open to students and recent graduates. You'll notice this candidate included the name of the university, degree type, academic major, graduation date, and a strong grade point average or GPA. Also, this candidate's work experience section is very detailed. We see the applicant used measurable results and elaborated on their accomplishments instead of just listing duties. They also included all the relevant dates, hours worked per week, locations, and level of experience. As a general rule, aim for at least 3 to 5 descriptive statements when describing your duties for each position. But depending on the length of time or responsibilities of a particular job, you may want 10 to 15 descriptive statements. Finally, providing professional references is a great way to support the information on your resume by connecting the hiring manager with a current or former supervisor who thought highly of you. It will also help verify the claims you made on the resume. Be sure to include their full names, job titles, organization names, phone numbers, emails, and the relationship to you. It is very important to explain the level of difficulty or responsibility for each job and activity you list in your resume. Highlight your accomplishments by documenting money saved or savings in time or efficiency. For example, using numbers to showcase an accomplishment for a person who has firefighting experience could be planned for controlled burns in 6-month period. Hiring managers love to see examples of measurable results. It helps them identify which position and grade level your talents are best suited for. Accomplishment statements show how your actions were beneficial to your team or employer. Use accomplishment statements to improve your resume by citing a situational example of your skills and the results or outcome of your work. Here's an example. Conceived and created a new program, system, service, procured or planned resulting in. Or you can say initiated, devised, and carried through a complex plan or process. That, ... Another example would be successfully handled an emergency situation or crisis that ... Explain. The formula for accomplishment statements is situation plus action equals results. Here is an example of how to use the accomplishment statement formula effectively. So situation, what problem, area of responsibility, or situation existed? Organization needed a comprehensive basic PC skills training curriculum, so classes could be taught in-house. Action, what action did you take? Design from concept to completion, a comprehensive basic computer skills training curriculum. And then results. What were the results of your efforts? Organization now has basic computer skills training courses that are tailored to the organization's needs and can be taught in-house for 25% of the cost of outside training. Accomplishment statements can be further enhanced using descriptive words. Let's review some on the next slide. When building your federal resume, it's important to include 5 basic areas of descriptive words: analytical, communication, training, leadership and management, and technical. Using descriptive words in each of these areas can enhance your resume. Don't forget about the significant keywords from the qualification section of the job announcement as well. Also, try and use active verbs instead of passive verbs. For example, a passive voice would be, accounts were reconciled today, but an active voice would be, reconciled accounts daily. Now, here are some examples of strong versus weak descriptive words. While simplified terms can be used in a resume, it's strongly advised to elaborate on your duties and accomplishments by using descriptive words, which will enhance the quality of your resume and provide a more professional look. Use strong descriptive words to set the tone for your application and emphasize important information about your experience and skills. Not only that, but strong descriptive words grab attention and make your resume more memorable. If you find yourself describing your work experience with the same boring words over and over again, try switching them out for strong, compelling descriptive words that will catch the employer's eyes. The task formula is also a useful tool when outlining the tasks or duties from the work you have performed. These are the items listed in your experience section. The task formula is the action verb, perform what, the direct objective object, which is what, whom, to whom or what, the qualifying statement, which is to produce what or why, how. Examples of this are sort, which is the action verb, incoming mail, which is the direct object, into functional groups for distribution, which is the qualifying statement. Here's another, write policy reports for use by public audience. Some final tips for building a resume include write in plain language and avoid jargon, avoid acronyms, carefully check spelling and grammar, have someone else review and proofread your resume, and then apply early and often to positions you're interested in and qualified for. As you may know, the Forest Service is organized by regions. The map here gives a visual representation of our regional locations. Each region varies in climate, geography, and the types of work that occurs. More information, for more information, please visit the Forest Service on the web. So this concludes our presentation portion of the webinar. We are now going to move into our live Q&A session. We encourage you to take full advantage of the subject matter experts we have on hand and ask any questions you may have. I will now turn it over to a member of my team who will moderate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Angela. I'm Stephen Thomas, and I'd be happy to moderate the Q&A session. If you'd like to ask a question, please post it in the Q&A pod, and I'll read those questions aloud. So we have a few questions already entered. So thank you guys very much for that. So the first question is, how heavily weighed are paid job versus volunteer work. Currently, I have more accumulated volunteer time, and so just curious about that. So paid experience or non-paid experience, experience is experience. If you can demonstrate the experience that you need to do for that job that you're applying to through your volunteer work, that is perfectly okay. So as long, you know, whether it's paid work, volunteer work, community service work, it could be organizations that you belong to. If that's helping demonstrate the work experience that you have, especially as it relates to the job you're applying to, it's all good experience to have on your resume. And thank you for that question. That was a very good question.
Let's see.
So the next question, can I apply for wildland firefighting as a recently graduated student from high school and currently taking fire science class? Yes, you can. We do have what's called the Wildland Firefighter Apprenticeship Program. That's entry-level firefighting jobs that you can apply to. The lowest grade that they're offering for that is at the GS3 level, which at the GS3 level, it only requires you to have at least 6 months of general work experience. So if you've done 6 months of work, whether like, again, paid work, volunteer work, community service work, that hits that 6 months of experience, then you can use that on your resume to qualify and be eligible for those wildland firefighter jobs. And those are for the permanent jobs. And then also coming up September 29th through October 6th, we'll have temporary fire jobs open as well. And those jobs will be open to the general public, and they won't start until next summer. So those are some opportunities for entry-level fire folks with no experience right out of high school you can apply to. And thank you for that question. The next question is, let's see. Okay, so the question really is there a best practice on period use on bullet statements? If you are writing a complete sentence, you should use a period at the end, and you should be consistent with the way you answer those questions. If you're using bullet statements, just be consistent in the way you put those answers in there and describe your experiences. Thank you for that. Because the main thing is, you know, being consistent with all your answers and how you punctuate things is key. And if you're using complete sentences, because sometimes folks are using just little short statements and not necessarily complete sentences on those bullet statements. Next question is it possible to obtain a career with the Forest Service without a college education? Yes, it is. We have many jobs that do not require you to have a college education. We have fire jobs, we have admin jobs, and currently we have open right now are our partnership jobs, which requires you just to have some experience, a high school diploma, and apply for those jobs. And those jobs are listed, you know, as low as the GS5 level and all the way up to the GS12 level. But once you get in the agency, if in a job without a career educational requirement on it, you know, most of our jobs you can promote through the system in other jobs that doesn't require that educational component. You know, fire jobs you get in without a degree, you can go up the food chain in the fire organization. These partnership jobs that you that don't require a degree, you know, you might start at the 5, you could be at a 12 level, you know, by the end of your career or somewhere midway through your career. It's all depending on how hungry you are and the dedication to the work you're doing and want to move up. But very good question. If a 5-page resume is submitted, does someone read the whole thing or just skim through it? Your resume will be read because we have to verify the experience that you identified in the USA Jobs questionnaire. So we're going to have to look at the questionnaire in the USA Jobs and then also look at your resume to make sure the work that you say you have done in the USA Jobs questions are reflected in your resume. So your resume does get read through that process just to make sure you're eligible and qualified for the job. And then hiring managers, it varies depending on each personal. That's on the HR side. But when the hiring manager gets your resume, that's going to be an individual, personal way. How do they review the candidate that they're given? So some managers are very detailed and will read every piece of it. Some managers like skimming through, looking for key points in your resume to see how that works. So that will vary based on the managers, but HR will read through your resume to make sure the experience that you demonstrate in your USA Jobs account is reflective in your resume. Do you have to put it on resume as volunteer work? You can list it on your work experience. If it's volunteer work, put it down as volunteer work. That's kind of building a picture of who you are. You're doing, especially if you're doing a lot of work on the volunteer side, it's like, that's great. Look at this person. They're doing this type of work, or, whether it's whatever work you're doing as a volunteer and you're doing a lot of it and you do a lot of hours of volunteer work, that just shows that you are a person that's willing to work or volunteer to do things without pay. And so that just sets up a character building for you. So definitely identify that. It says, so the next question is, what are your recommendations for individuals looking to change career paths whose job titles may not align with the position they're applying to, but have transferable skills? We recommend that folks, if you see a job that you're interested in, and all of your experience does not have to come with the Forest Service. If you have skills, you've been doing a job and your skills are transferable to the job that you're looking at or interested in, please identify those. I recommend you put in for that job, identify the skills that you believe meet the qualifications of that job, and then make sure your resume is built in a way that identifies those skills and the job that you were doing and how they respond to the job skills that we're looking for. So definitely apply and make sure you're describing those experiences in a way that we can see that those transferable skill sets. The next question is, what would be a good starting job to get involved in the Forest Service and get involved in Forest Service work? Well, that would vary depending on your likes and what you're interested in, because we have jobs at all levels, volunteer work, not volunteer work, but we have administrative work, we have fire jobs, we have human resource jobs. We have all kinds of entry level. We have temporary jobs. You want to get a taste of it without actually being a permanent. You can do some not volunteer work, but temporary work experience. But it really all depends on you as an individual, what would be a good starting job for you, you know? But we have jobs for just about everyone, for teachers, social workers, nurses, counselors, and then all the natural resource jobs and all the admin jobs. So, take your pick because they're all wonderful and they put you in some great work locations. So recommendations on graduate school after 3+ years of natural resource experience. Does a graduate degree qualify you for many more jobs? Your graduate degree, depends on what your graduate degree's in, but our jobs are real specific. So if you go into school, if you have a degree in in let's say forestry, and you have a forestry job. You did 3 years of forestry work as after you got your undergrad and decided to go back and get your master's degree. Does that master's degree open you up for more? I mean, it makes you a little bit more educated academically, but with the experience and already in the system, it doesn't necessarily buy you especially if you're a professional series, it doesn't necessarily buy you more money or guarantee you more promotions. Because once you're in the agency, in a professional series, you can promote up that in that professional series throughout. If you decide to get a grad degree in a different program area, that will help you qualify for maybe that job that you're seeking and that you got your graduate degree in. And so it doesn't necessarily buy you more once you're already in and in a job in a professional series. What education is required to work with wildlife that needs rescue or rehabilitation? Um, in order to be a wildlife biologist for the Forest Service in a professional series, you would need a wildlife biology degree. If you have an interest in wildlife but does not have a degree and you can, say for instance, you've been you like to watch birds, you're a bird watcher, you go hiking and camping and you're really interested in animals, you can identify animals based on their footprints, their feces, or anything like that. You can get, and without a degree, you can get into a wildlife, a biotech position with a focus in wildlife. Um, so for the most part too, we as a Forest Service do not handle the animals. That's where Fish and Game or Fish and Wildlife Service come in. We're trying to protect and enhance habitat with wildlife. We're trying to make sure we're not destroying or taking away any of their habitat, but we don't generally handle wildlife. Next question is, some questions I'll be skipping over and that because it's real more personal. So those things that are really relevant to one person, I would definitely recommend that you follow up with a consultation, book a consultation with one of our recruiters. And I did drop that into the chat earlier, but we can have that redropped in there.
Yeah, also, yeah, and I'll drop it into the chat right now too for everybody.
Yeah, so please, if we don't answer your questions here, please, book a consultation. We can talk more one-on-one with you about your specific, circumstances. How do I tailor my resume when I am lacking the experience? So if you are a person who is applying for a job and you're like, oh, well, I'm not quite have that experience level, we recommend that, unless you just know 100% that you're not going to qualify, but we always recommend you apply, write up your experiences the way, that kind of, again, correlates to the job that you're applying to. You always want to make sure your experiences are related to the job that you're trying to apply to. You want to build your resume to the job that you're applying to, look at your experiences from your job, and how do they relate to the qualifications and eligibilities that they're looking for in the job that you're applying to, and try to hit it from that aspect. Always try to, some 3 tips that I always recommend is tailor your resume to make sure you are getting communication skills, teamwork, and leadership skills. A lot of our jobs are looking at those 3 main areas in every job that you apply to. So just, let HR tell you that you're not qualified or you don't have the experience. And so that would be our biggest recommendation, is a situation like that. Don't take yourself out of the running.
Exactly.
Next question. So the next one is about, does USA Jobs resumes, are they bad way to apply? No, USA Jobs resumes are not a bad way to apply. And actually, we recommend folks build their resume in USA Jobs. I know USA Jobs doesn't produce the cutest, the prettiest resumes. They are, left justified block. But in USA Jobs, it's asking you some real specific questions about your experiences. And so we know when we see a person's resume, when it looks like a USA Jobs resume, we know exactly where that came from. And that is our primary source for folks to apply, and that we recommend folks to build their resumes there. I mean, we're not looking at how pretty your resume is, but we are looking at, spelling errors, grammatical errors, things like that. So keep that in mind. However, if you want your resume to look pretty and cute and put your own flair to it, we still recommend you build it in USA Jobs, but then you can take what's in USA Jobs and then create your own formatting if you needed to. That's got good questions today. How do you show, the next question, how do you show transferable skills? Again, you need to look at the job that you're applying to, and then look at your background and decide the background that you have, how do they fit this job? Look at the details of your job and see, how do I know I'm a customer service? Oh, I talk to people all the time. So that's communication. You're helping solve issues, answering questions. You're working with your colleagues, or you're working with customers to help them solve a problem. That's teamwork and service. So think about those skills that you have, whether it's soft skills or whatever, and how can these skills relate? Write that down, describe it, and try to make sure, like, okay, if I write down I'm customer service, I work with the public all the day, I'm giving them information and providing them with advice and counsel. Okay, is this job asking for those kind of skills? Is that job asking about communication skills? And that's how you kind of identify those transferable skills. You mentioned that this method of writing federal resumes to be suitable by all agencies. Does that mean standardization is passed down through all agencies, or was the standard adopted by USA Jobs specifically and happens to be effective in other agencies and departments? For the most part, and when we're talking about resumes, federal resumes as it relates to Forest Service federal resumes, we're looking for more details. Our HR people are not going to assume that you know how to do something if you are not telling us. And we are speaking from a Forest Service agency federal resume. We can't necessarily tell you how HR is doing it at other agencies, but that's how we're doing it at our agency. And it is recommended for most agencies to build your resume in USA Jobs, because all of those building a resume in USA Jobs is the standard that all the federal agencies are using USA Jobs as an application process. So I hope that answers that question. The 6-second rule is not, so it says, how is USA Jobs supposed to be inclusive if they only look at resumes for 6 seconds? That's a review of a manager, not USA Jobs. So HR goes through, you apply to USA Jobs, you got to answer so many certain questions. You can qualify, you can weed yourself out based on how you answer the questions. But once you say you get through that process, HR take another look at your resume to see how you meet those qualifications and eligibility for the job you're applying to. And then once they finish their review, they pass on that certificate to hiring managers. So now, because at the HR level, they're not making the selections. The hiring managers go through the applications that HR gave them. So that 6-second rule is really based on when the manager gets their certificate, what are they looking for? If they got a certificate of, I'm trying to fill 2 jobs and I got 25, 30 folks, I'm trying to find a way to get through those resumes in a timely and effective way. So that's where that 6-second rule comes in, not through USA Jobs. Thank you, but that was a very good question. From the GS5, I'm assuming that's the GS5 position, can I make my way to becoming a hotshot? If you are looking at a fire job, generally speaking, you start from the bottom and you work your way up. And yes, you can get yourself on a hotshot crew. And so a hotshot crew can consist of GS3s and above, depending on your background, your experience, and how that manager on that crew sets up their squad, their crew. So yes, you can. And you can work your way up past that if you wanted to. We're about 5 minutes away from ending up, and I know we still got quite a few questions in the queue. So if we don't answer all of your questions, if your question didn't get answered, please follow up with send your question into our email address, and we will get that posted here for you to send that question into our email address, and we'll be happy to respond to you that way. And if you have some personal stuff or some individualized questions that we didn't get to, please set up a consultation with one of our recruiters. And I think we do. I think we have time for another one.
Yep, and then I'll just go over the upcoming hiring events and webinars and wrap it up. But yeah, another question.
If you are looking in a certain area to work, but there aren't any positions shown online, if you're looking for a position that you don't see advertised on USA Jobs in that location, more than likely they are not filling positions at that time at that location. But you can always reach out to them at that unit and ask them about, are there any vacancies? And, if you're looking for a vacancy in wildlife or timber, you can ask specifically about potential vacancies that might be coming up, or if they might have any vacancies coming up in that area. But yes, that is that you can do that. And because you never know, you might have caught them when they're doing some additional planning. Some folks may have left, but they just haven't advertised the jobs yet.
Perfect.
Right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Again, if we didn't answer some of your questions, please send them to our email address, and we'll be dropping that email link into the chat. And if you have more personal stuff that you want to get answered, more one-on-one stuff, please book a consultation with one of our recruiters. And thank you for all the questions today. We really enjoyed that, your participation. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stefan. Great. So here's the exciting bit. We do have hiring events currently and coming up. So right now we have the Forest Services hiring for various fire positions. Job announcements will open August 26th to September 16th, and then September 9th to 28th, and September 21st to October 11th in various locations. And this is open to the public as well. And then we are also hiring for partnership coordinators. Job announcements will open on September 6th and through the 16th in various locations, and is open to the public as well. So that just opened. And then Forest Services hiring for natural resources, fish and wildlife. Our job announcement will open September 6th, just yesterday, in various locations, September 6th till the 12th, which is like next Monday, in various locations, and is open to the public as well. The application period for the Presidential Management Fellowship Program will be open from September 13th to the 27th, and this is an OPM led event. And then Forest Service will be hiring for forestry and timber career opportunities. Job announcements will open September 19th to the 28th in various locations and is open to the public as well. All applications will be accepted on usajobs.gov. and our upcoming webinars, we invite you to attend one of our upcoming recruitment events on a variety of topics, or invite someone you know that you think would benefit from this information. The upcoming events include eligibilities and qualifications, which is next Wednesday, September 14th, 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Tips for job seekers, Wednesday, September 21st, 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Navigating USA Jobs, Wednesday, September 28th, 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. And then Federal Resume Workshop, which is Wednesday, October 5th, 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time as well. Thank you so much for your time today, everybody. A career with the Forest Service is a career working for nature, managing and caring for more than 193 million acres of our nation's magnificent lands. Please follow the Forest Service on social media for updates on upcoming events and exciting news. If you have questions that we did not address today, please send an email to our team at sm.fs.recruiting@usda.gov. For upcoming recruitment and hiring events, as well as future webinars and workshops, you may visit the FS Forest Service Jobs website shown here. Thank you for your time today, and we hope you found this training session very valuable.